Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out to Bearing, to our Mental Health Summit. Thank you for everyone who came out and found it not robbery to trudge through the storm and the rain to get here. Thank you to all of you therapists who took time out of your schedule to be here with us today. We host a monthly event here at Bearing with our group, Bearing Forward, and it's usually fun time. It's usually something we go out, we go to bowling and karaoke. But as someone who recently went through therapy, I felt that this was important to address. It is something that we have either been directly impacted, indirectly impacted, or someone we know is going through something right now. Someone is experiencing some type of trauma, some type of mental illness. And while we don't want to focus on mental illness, we want to focus on mental wellness. We thought it would be a good idea to get some therapists together for those of us that may not know what the options are. We may not know that there are resources out there. There are so many topics that we want to cover today, like grief, couples, relationships, children with autism, and just anything that could help us to have some answers and solutions to the questions that we may not get to ask people and get answers to. That's what this is about today. So what we want to do is go around the horn and introduce each therapist. If we ask that you would tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about, what line of work you tell us your practice and what it is that you do. We want to start ladies first with Genevieve Stevens. Can you?
That's a very good thing to say. I am so glad to be here, Yelling. I've got a mic. We'll just put it around there. It is good to be here on such a rainy day, and I just knew it was going to start raining really hard around 3:30. I tried to will that away, but it didn't quite work. So thank you for being with us. But a number of years ago, I was at work, and I went to the break room. And there was this woman sitting there reading a book, a paperback book called The Farther Reaches of Human Nature by Abraham Maslow. And I said, "Oh, what you reading?" And that changed my life. She told me about it probably more than I wanted to know about it at that time during a very short break. But I picked up the book and decided to go to graduate school. I had been out of regular old college for a couple of years and went into counseling psychology and enjoyed it very much, got my master's. And then 2 years after that, I decided I want to go ahead and get my PhD because I don't want any doors closed to me. Some were. I did have my LPC then. I had my licensed professional counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist. And so I went on to get my PhD at the University of Houston Counseling Department. Taught quite a few people now that are practicing in Houston with fully great practices. I'm so proud of that. But I also went to work at for the University of Houston system teaching in their graduate school. And that's how I taught a lot of those folks. And also went to work for Houston City College, formerly Houston Community College. I am now the Associate Chair of Psychology there. And I'm on the board of the Hospital of the Houston Behavioral Health Center. And so, I kind of keep myself busy with stuff like that. I also realized that in training, there was nothing about aging. There was nothing about gerontology. There was nothing about neuropsych for aging people. So I had to go outside of my PhD program. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm almost finished. To get that training, I do talk a lot. It's the way it is. And so I had to go outside to get that training. And so I have really bugged graduate training programs. Get that kind of stuff in your programs because if you haven't looked at population growth, that's where we're going. So anyway, I just am glad to be here, and let me turn this over to the Reverend. He's go. Thank you.
Me? You said ladies first.
Oh, yeah, ladies.
My name is Troy Johnson. I'm a provisionally licensed clinical psychologist. I've been in the counseling field since the late 80s. And believe it or not, I work for the Graduate School of Social Work for Houston Graduate School after Hurricane Katrina because I'm from New Orleans. I've dealt with, and I also pastor, so I've dealt with grief and a lot with grief and trauma and all of those kinds of things. And so my PhD, again, is in clinical psychology. I have 3 masters, one in counseling, one in psychology, and one in divinity.
Talk your talk.
I got this thing with school, so the joke with my kids is how long he gonna stay out this time. I'm finished. So, and this is my big boss right here, so I work for her company. So,
You forgot to tell the reason why you went into counseling. It's a good story, actually.
it was interesting. So we were talking. I went to New York to do music and theater. I was professionally trained in voice, and I decided I didn't want to do that as a living. And so a friend of mine said, they're hiring at my job for SAPAS workers. I didn't know what that was, a substance prevention intervention specialist. And I said, what is that? They say, we'll train you how to do it. And it was teaching groups in junior high school. I worked at Canarsie High School, and teaching them doing group therapy around substance abuse. And that's the way I got into therapy. I went to Ackerman Institute. I studied with Salvador Minuchin and did some things that meant nothing to me until I got a little bit older. And so that's how I got in the field, by accident, but you can't throw me out of it now. I absolutely love what I'm doing.
Let me help you again. Remember the pastors, you said the pastors did not want to go, consult with anyone before you saw.
Yes, that's true too. So I work with a lot of pastors around the country.
Just let
often-
why don't we just let Valerie tell your story?
I tell a story. Yeah, I work with pastors around the country, and Doc knows this because oftentimes pastors don't trust anybody else, and so because there is a need for that, I went into this field as well, especially getting my PhD to work with pastors. Interesting thing, since I'm talking about this, my dissertation is around a word called unmitigated communion. It is a word that means how we take care of others to the detriment of ourselves and get to the point we can't ask for or receive help. And I find that many pastors were committing suicide, attempting suicide, becoming alcoholics, and a whole lot of other stuff, but they trusted other pastors to talk to. So to work in this field and work with other pastors and church leaders is very important to me, because I believe that if the leadership is not healthy, sick leadership, sick church. And I believe that more than anything. There you go, Doc.
Now tell your story, Valerie. Thank you.
Right. Well, I mean, I want everyone to know he's amazing. I mean, we've been how's about me? So let's see. I've been in the mental health field for 25 years as a clinical psychologist. When I was seeing patients, I don't no longer see patients at this time because I run a sizable center.
Yes, Lord.
Yeah, okay. It's like, 100 and something people. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was a diagnostician. So I was never a counseling psychologist, which I appreciate both of you guys being, all of you guys being counselors, but I would determine what was the mental ill and develop treatment plans and refer for interventions and whatnot. And so that was my main, I guess, gifting in the mental health field. Since then, I did start 2 companies, one in child welfare, Monarch Family Services, where we work with foster and adoptive families, predominantly kinship. And so I've been, for really 25 years, the world of trauma has been my whole, thing. So from the start of my career till now, it's just been working and detangling and figuring out how can we all heal from traumatic events and also be prepared for the next one. Because as we keep living, we keep adding to our trauma buckets, not because we want to, but this is how life is set up. And so resiliency and how do we take care of ourselves so that as things do happen in life and progress, we can recover faster and then reach one, teach one, and so and helping others. And so a year after I started Monarch, I started the Adolescent Center of Mental Health Services, and we have a very robust teaching program, and that's where Dr. Troy Johnson came out of one of our teaching program. We help train master level and PhD level and postdoc psychologists. And so we have about 20 students any given time. And so that was just like a big piece of what I wanted to do as I was expanding out, to be able to bring up competent and very compassionate mental health professionals. And so that, you know, we're doing that every day. We work you know, hard to make sure that we have the client-centered care that everyone deserves and needs that comes to us. And so yeah, that's what I've been doing with my life.
Thank you.
Let's check this. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, works just fine. We haven't used this one yet. Genesis Blue, I am a licensed professional counselor. I started out in 2007, I think now, working with at a domestic violence center, so I would be the one that would go on the scene when someone had been either in a domestic violence situation or actually raped, because we also did a sexual assault safe house. A lot of people know it. It's in Huntsville. Yeah, I went right into the fire like in my early 20s. I loved that job. It was exhilarating for me. Just also coming out of being in college and going on the scene when a girl in college had been sexually assaulted and helping her through that process. I did that for a while. I think I'm a glutton for punishment, because then I got really interested in the mind of the offender, and because I was in Huntsville, I went to work for the prison system, and so I then did sex offender treatment, and then I did that for quite some time. A lot of people clench their pearls when they hear that, but they got to get help somewhere, right? And so we're the first line of defense, because a lot of these people are going to go home whether we like it or not. So I worked a lot in sex offender treatment. And then, you know, I said, oh, let me try a different part of the system. I went to work at the women's prison. That was actually more mentally and emotionally taxing. I went back to sex offender treatment. It's heavy, it's heavy. The women's prison is heavy.
Yeah.
And so from there, I went to work for one of the biggest providers in the county. A lot of people know it as MHMRA or the Harris Center now. I worked there for several years. At some point, I started a private practice, and then I stepped out on faith maybe 4 years ago now and went completely private practice, which, you know, for so long I had like 2 to 3 jobs at a time. As you can see, like they were laughing at me. My phones keep dropping because I'm a chronic overfunctioner, which leads me to my book that I'm an author. My second book that I just released is called The Month of Me, and it's really focused on getting us to stop overfunctioning, and we do that a lot. A lot. Culturally, we are taught to do that, like it's ingrained in us. And so I'm wanting us to go from overfunctioning to overflowing. So that's what this book is about. And yeah, I'm getting into more speaking engagements and things like that so I can touch more people. Yeah.
Thank you. Ron?
All right. I'm Ron Donlevy, and I know nothing about overfunctioning at all. And yeah, totally. Just kick back, relax. So I am actually the most baby therapist up here. I am an LPC associate. I think I have my 3,000 hours. I need to add them up. But so I'm about to drop off the associateship. But I taught school for 28 years. I too was a vocal performance major first, and then I taught elementary music for 9 years. I did middle school choir for 17 or 18, and then high school choir for a couple years. By the time I did high school choir, I was already working on this master's. I come very naturally to this master's because I realized when I first blew up my first college degree and delayed it by 2.5, 3 years, I realized I was an alcoholic and, you know, tried to come out and do that kind of thing. That said, I had some help and I got into AA, and so I have 36 years and a month and a half of sobriety. Thank you. So doing 12-step work and being in and around 12-step programs, you hear a lot about therapy and therapy words and therapy stuff. And so it always feels like it's right there. And teaching middle school is like doing group therapy every day. So that was great, and it brought me kind of here. So now I get to be retired and have a whole new career, and I'm loving it. That said, I did do, interestingly enough, about 6, 7, 8 months, right at the very end of my teaching at a prison out in Humble, and that was a very enlightening experience. I was teaching like a anti-recidivism type class, and it was very rewarding, and I learned so much. And I can say, I went to, when I was still observing the other teachers, I went to the women's prison for 2 days. Oh my goodness. Wow, that was an experience. They told me that it was very different from, and it was, yes. So I am at Eden's counseling group, and we have a location right over in Montrose. And interestingly enough, Rachel Edens was a student of Genevieve's, and she is our owner and has created a great environment for us to be able to serve people here in the central Houston area and beyond. And that's been a great experience for me. I do dialectical behavior therapy, which is DBT, group skills, and so I do that a couple nights a week, and I really enjoy that. It's mindfulness and interpersonal effectiveness, emotion regulation, and distress tolerance, and I have loved the way it kind of overlaps with internal family systems and some other approaches that are very attachment-based as well, like emotionally focused therapy. And I find that there's a big overlap in the space of wise mind or self-energy or really getting into the core of the emotional base of what we're talking about. And so that's kind of how I work, and I don't have nearly as much experience as these amazing people in therapy specifically, but I have some life experience, and I really, really am hyper-focused, shall we say, on what I'm doing now, and I'm really enjoying it. So, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for sharing. It is not easy bragging on yourself, and you all did an amazing job. You all did an amazing job bragging on yourself. No, but let's get right into it. In full transparency, as someone who recently went through couples therapy, I was sharing with, Genesis is a very good friend of mine, and I was sharing with her that I went to couples therapy thinking that I was going there to unleash my husband's issues, and that we were just going to spend all of our sessions dragging him. And when I got there, I realized that I had some internal work that I needed to do on myself.
You know, sir.
But my question to you is, what are some of the stigmas around mental health? And specifically, I want to come back to you, Pastor, and ask you, what are some stigmas around mental health and faith, mental health in the church? So we'll come back to you, but if anyone wants to answer, what are some stigmas that you find about mental health?
Well, I do have some. So what a big stigma is that when people think about mental health, they're thinking about the schizophrenic patient, the person that is trying to, delusional disorders or something, or maybe antisocial personality disorders, meaning that they have criminal activity behavior, criminal activity or behaviors or whatever. But the truth is that everyone at some point in their life is going to either deal with a mild, moderate, or even severe mental instability. And sometimes it's situational, it's hereditary, or it just happens, you know? And so, because I hear, like, when people talk about therapy, like, I don't need therapy, I'm not crazy. Well, but they're thinking again about the schizophrenia, you know, the psychotic disorders and all that. Therapy was never designed anyway for those severe type of disorders. Medication was. But therapy was designed for everyday people, like any of us. We all have something that we are, and somebody said it best, you know, something that we're either in, or we're coming out, or we're going in, or we're in something, you know. And so that's the circle of life. And so to feel that it makes you crazy to seek out help, that is a very, you know, that's a misnomer. Therapy was designed for all of, you know, for everyday people with everyday problems, and, you know, so I think that's one of the.
I have two quick little anecdotes about this. One, someone I know facing one child about to graduate, another child about to get married, a loss of a parent, and instability in a marriage. Finally got to the doctor, and just the PCP, and explained that they were just really having a rough time. And the doctor said, "Honey, why didn't you come sooner? There's no human on the planet who can endure all of that at once without some sort of help." And so she went on some anti-anxiety medication and got some therapy and some skills and that kind of thing. And, has been very successful, right? That's just one example. Another great example is kind of a reframe for therapy in general. What possible stigma should there be, or could there possibly be, around having an hour a week to focus only on yourself? It's hard to believe that we think that taking care of ourselves by really just having someone to kind of listen to us as if we are the only important thing, even if it's just for an hour a week, or eventually an hour every other week, or once a month, or whatever it is. I mean, wow, why haven't we always done that? And so that's kind of my take on it, that maybe it doesn't explain the stigma so much, but it tries to get at destigmatizing what we do.
Yeah, I think for me, especially now, pop culture has gotten a hold of therapy. It's trending now, but what happened is a blessing and a curse, right? Because now they hijack it, right? And turn it into something. I love what she said, like, that's not even, it's for the regular people, you know? So they hijack it and they turn it into something must be wrong with you. So shame. Shame is a word that comes to mind. I can tell you, starting my private practice years ago to now, like my male clientele has increased probably like 300%. Like guys were not going to therapy because they thought it meant you're weak. Something's wrong with you. You can't hold it together. These are the things that are playing in their mind. Even when, you know, if you look at people of color or men, there's lots of like, well, what's wrong? We don't do that around here. You better go to church kind of thing, right? Which I'm sure you'll get into in a minute. But it is really, one, it was hijacked, so people don't even understand what it really is. They're just going based on what somebody posts one day. And two is the people around you, like what they're saying to you, they're internalizing that, and then it's shame, like shame or I feel weak for doing this. Those are some of the things that I have seen for sure.
I'm going to just say just one quick thing, maybe three quick things. And that is, and maybe four. And because I know when this gentleman gets going, I know we're going to hear something even wild and wonderful. This, when I had about 25, 28 years in therapy practice. And I was also training young, I guess, therapists to be. You know, I would ask them, you know, you're all saying you want to be therapists, and yet many of you have never been through therapy yourself.
Wow.
And you really need to. Now, a lot of programs will require even nowadays that you go through about a year's therapy, which it depends on what's happening, you know, with the person. But, you know, for me, that would have been like nothing, you know, because there's so much to discuss, so much to work through. However, I just said, now, if I walked into this room and I said, oh, and my arm was up like this, I said, I'm sorry, I'm running late, but I tripped and fell up the stairs, and I think I've broken my arm, but I'm okay because I just took a bunch of Advil, and we need to get your session going, or we need to get your class going. Would y'all think I was a little strange? Like a lot strange. And you would say, Dr. Stevens, you've got to go to the hospital. We need to get you to the ER right away because your arm is broken. It needs to be set and fixed so it can heal. And yet, we will suffer from grief, from a broken heart, from not knowing what to do, from anxiety, from depression, from just trying to figure it all out on our own. And we're so lucky not to have lived through. I'm thinking about my parents who grew up during the Depression and World War II, and you just toughed it out. You gutted it up, and you went to church and prayed about it. Because if you prayed about it, it was going to be okay. But that's another topic.
I'm glad she said that, because what the part that I'm interested in you is, how do you separate mental illness from spiritual warfare? Meaning, we come to church, an African American church, because I think that's important.
I was in the Walmart, and yeah, I like the Walmart. I was in Walmart, and somebody saw me one time and said, "Hey, Pastor Troy, how you doing?" I said, "I'm having a hell of a day." Their statement to me was, "No, God is good." I said, "What does that have to do with my hell of a day?" I'm not having a crisis of faith. I'm having a hell of a day.
Okay.
Stigma oftentimes in the church community, spiritual, is that we oftentimes think because people struggle, there's a crisis of their faith. This has nothing to do with a crisis of faith. This has to do with waking up in the morning. All of it is spiritual warfare.
Okay.
All of it. For me, we have these earthly bodies, but we are a spiritual experience. So all of it is a spiritual experience for me. It is how I handle and understand that I have permission to struggle, knowing that God is still good. Watch this. And there are some things I have to do, like sit on the couch, to get some of this stuff out, and it doesn't mean I'm weak. As a matter of fact, on the contrary, it means I'm strong enough to admit that there's something going on in me, and we have a theology in church that's, I always tell the Fresh Start Church where I pastor, I know I'm a little bit different. God's not going to do it. God will do it. He's not. No, he's not. He's not going to bring you to therapy. He's not going to make you deal with your trauma. He's not going to make you get whole again. He's not going to do it. That's on you to do, recognizing that a relationship with him gives me the strength to sit in an office with somebody to help me through something and realize this is the strongest thing that I could ever done. But we don't have a theology of crisis. And so our theological framework is not able to fit into it the struggling that happens. If Jesus suffered, how is it at all possible that I can go through all of life without suffering, without going through? But again, in church, we have a theology that you got a crisis of your faith if you're struggling with something. No, that wasn't the crisis of faith when you broke your arm. That was the reality of falling up steps. And watch this, and band-aiding it because we abuse God by using him in ways that he's not going to be used. We abuse our relationship with him in ways that he's not in because we think he's going to do everything. He's not. It is up to one of my daughters who's a therapist at the church, says, you are not responsible for your trauma, but you are responsible for your healing. And so theologically, we have to redefine what it means to deal with life and still be faithful.
Right. And it's important that you said that, because typically in African American churches, right, we were always taught that if someone was having a situation at church, the first thing you do is you go over there and pray for them, and that was going to fix it.
Yeah, you pray for them and then ask them, did they take their
And ask,
medicine?
do they take their medication? Right.
Yeah,
Do they
it's
have
good
a
to pray for 'em. You
therapist that
need
they
to
go
pray
to?
for 'em. Ask
But
them, did they
having
take
to
their medicine?
separate that from a leadership perspective.
But don't separate it. Put it, listen, we from a Euro kind of mindset, and I say this as an African, we separate the mind over here, the body over here, the spirit over here. They're not segmented out. They all one. We're trying to separate stuff out to do surgery on a piece. And if you only do surgery on a piece, the whole body is out of whack. You got to work on all of it at the same time. Don't separate it. Understand that my spiritual self walks along with my emotional and psychological self. And as I go through therapy and the word, all of it heals me.
What I meant by separate, meaning we just pray and we didn't touch the fact that this person needs some,
Right.
some mental attention. They need some medical attention from a therapist.
We didn't
to talk
acknowledge their
through.
struggle.
We didn't acknowledge the struggle, right? We automatically just assumed that because we went over there and prayed for them, that whatever they came in here with,
We deny people the right not to be all right.
and we called it a demon too.
Yeah, everything's a demon.
Everything was a demon.
But that also goes back to your original question about, well, not that, but the stigmas. Because if someone comes to you and they're coughing, right? They're coughing and they're trying, they are appearing sick. It's like we'll instantly say, oh, let me go get you some medicine. Let me get you some treatment. Something that's easy. But when you can't see the pain, well, we can see it, but let's just say you can't physically see it, or they make it up or make it package it very pretty. Then because it can't be seen, you're thinking it's not there, or there's nothing to be concerned about because I've just packaged it up and made it look pretty. But actually inside, if you really start to untether reality of things, there is something that needs treatment. Just as much as you would treat a cough, when you are experiencing any type of mental unwellness, then it deserves to be addressed. It deserves intervention and treatment. I mean, it's not, it's I don't know, for some reason in this world, we've convinced ourselves it's all right to be physically not well, but mentally not well. No, I'm not like the crazy person on the street. But again, those are different cases. We all deal with life. And so.
And oftentimes when you look at scriptural texts, Jesus never says go be made well. He says go be made whole.
Yep.
All of you. Everything that encompasses you. And I don't think we have a theological, holistic approach to the well-being of people.
So while we're here, what are some of the signs? What are some of the signs of someone who's in distress or going through something? How do you, as therapists, determine that? Or
I don't know if it's us to be the one to determine. It's to educate, to do psychoeducation so people can become aware of their own ills. Because going up to people say, oh, something's wrong with you, oh, you got anxiety, you have depression. That's not our role. Our role is for once there has been some introspection and you have determined you don't want to live like this anymore, there's a better life, then that's where we come in. And so, because you have to be a willing participant in your treatment. You have to be a willing participant in your wholeness, as Dr. Troy said. And so if you're not an active participant, and I'm dragging you or forcing you, because we get court-ordered therapies for in our practice, and judges are saying that, oh, they need 6 sessions of this. First, where's this number come from? But also, that's not. they're gonna go through it because they have to comply, but they have not. But if they have not come to grips that they're in trouble or they need more out, more. They need treatment. They need healing. They need intervention. It's just they're going through motions. And so your question was, how do we help them? We can't help someone that's not willing to help themselves.
Are you asking how do we help or how we become aware?
Well, you know how they say we mask well, right? We mask.
Well, with that question, I would say that for me, I listen at language. Listen at what people say. I'm hearing what you say. And as Dr. Val said, it's not my job to drag you in. As a community of belief, it is my job, once I see that, is to walk alongside of you.
Okay.
Till you come to the place where you realize that, and I can be a resource for you. I recognize as I pastor, I listen to the language of some people, I say, that's an interesting statement. And I leave that alone, but I'm available and present and walk alongside of them because I don't know what's going on. Something's happening, and I'm just going to walk with you. Okay. Whatever that looks like, listen to you sometime, even though I don't want to. You're dumping all that stuff on me. Oh, okay, and I'm just listening. To be aware, that's what community is, to walk alongside. I walk alongside of you.
I love it. Yeah, and I think we want to answer your question because I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I think you have to be careful because then they'll be like, that's what it is and that's what it looks like. She said, you got to be crying, you got to be, but here's the thing, just like I said, I wrote a book about overfunctioning. Literally, most people don't even know that they're overfunctioning. You wouldn't even be able to identify that because in this, at least in America, they think that that's success, right? You're doing great. You got 3 jobs and you only sleep 3 hours a night and you raising your kids and you attend every game. They are thinking they're killing it, right? So if we give you specifics, it might make you sort of ignore or disregard the other symptoms that could be there as well. And so, yeah, I think it's a matter of if you know you're not aligned, now it's time to go see the lady, as I love to say. Go see the lady and unpack that. But yeah, if we just give you certain symptoms, my fear is that you'll think that is it. And it's not a catch-all, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ron, you have something?
I did, but I was listening.
And we got to be careful sometimes in community because we get uncomfortable and we start trying to work on people because we don't know how to back up and let them be okay. Right now, they may need to be this for a moment. And it's okay for them to be this all over the place for a moment. You just walking alongside with them because we get uncomfortable when we think people are not functioning at the place where they think they ought to. It's okay.
And, I hate to bring it back to 12-step, but it takes what it takes. And so somebody needs to be ready. When they sit down in front of me that very first session, I say, my approach to therapy is that you're the expert in the room. That you're the expert in the room because you're the expert on your own life. I can't make any decisions that you're going to want to follow through with. I can't give you any suggestions. I am not an advice giver. You determine what we're going to do in this space. Sure, I have a lot of experience, life experience, knowledge, and I can throw out some good questions so you can figure out what direction you want to go. But that's not for me to determine. And part of that is some people are ready for change because they've realized that something has changed in the way it works for them. I mean, there are people who have coping mechanisms in place. They may not all be great ones, but they have coping mechanisms in place, and they've suffered anxiety for 30 or 40 years and never dealt with it the way we might. They could be doing okay with their other coping mechanisms until they're not. And so when they see that change in the way they're moving through the world and they're struggling, that's when they need someone else to help get them back on track. And who knows what that is? There may be a biological solution. There may be an intellectual solution, but most likely it's more of an emotional and spiritual solution.
I'm going to say one quick thing about that. I don't know, 4 or 5.
Stop saying
4 or
quick,
5. Yeah.
Genevieve, just
Yeah.
answer your
I'm going to
question.
say a few things. Okay. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. I'm thinking of 2 situations, fairly recent. One woman who was drop dead gorgeous, just beautiful woman, immaculately dressed all the time, just looked like a model. She went through some pretty bad things, a lot of losses, a lot of realities that came her way that she wished had not. And so she started doing things like not wearing the nicest clothes. She stopped wearing makeup. This was very unusual. No more jewelry. This kind of started evolving. And her hair, which was really her big thing. She loved her hair. And it was beautiful hair. One day, she came to work, and she had cut her long hair, cut it all off, about my length. And we all were going, she cut her hair off. And that's when we're talking about signs. And these things that we're talking about here as a group are very good because sometimes it's not about signs. But that's when I knew that there was something drastically going on. And she did end up going to therapy. She did end up getting hospitalized for about a month to start working on these things. And that was one thing. And then I had to laugh about this one. It's not really funny, but a person that was at a party and they drank a glass of wine. Okay, well, that's fine. And the next thing I knew, they were drinking another glass of wine. Okay, that's fine. And then they were asking the host of the party, could they open up another bottle of wine and proceed to drink that whole bottle? And the reason I bring that up is that was a sign that this person had also gone through another relationship ending and just was not coping with it well and was really over drinking. Sometimes we can see those kind of signs. And that's when we have the ability to either reach out to them, and sometimes this is more on a personal level. We might see them in a situation or at a event or whatever, but or somebody may come up and say, "Hey, this person did blah blah blah," and you can say, "Well, here's my card. Maybe they could call me, and that would be okay." So.
Thank you. I want to jump topics really quick. Valerie, this is specifically for you. Everyone can answer, but I was looking at some statistics, and it said that depression, anxiety, and suicide rate has increased drastically, particularly in youth and teens. From your perspective and from your experience, what are some contributing factors do you think is happening, particularly with youth and teens? As a mother of 3 youth and teens and working with children with special needs, what's your perspective on that?
Definitely everybody knows the answer. Social media, of course. Sometimes, in some cycles, it becomes, it's about bullying, online bullying. In other trending things, it's it's cool to cut or commit suicide or whatever. And so it's the influence. As children, we didn't have the influence of social media. However, we also didn't have the awareness of mental illness either. So where they're more informed than we are about, they actually can name it, they can label it and say, I have this. I had even today actually, Ethan asked me, Mom, is it okay that I tell people that I have autism spectrum disorder? I said, of course. But back in the day, we didn't call ASD. ASD, we said, oh, he's just strange, right? But he actually has he knows the name. Mm-hmm. And he asked me this morning, he said, is it okay that I tell people? I said, yes, you tell anybody. But, so we're flooded with information from technology, the technology advancements, but also it gets murky with the negative messaging and trending and negative trends and whatnot. And so that's why I believe, amongst other things, the fall of two-parent households, and single parenting, it's higher than it's ever been, and as well as other factors that are going on worldwide that impacts the dynamics of the family. it does, it does hurt, in the long run, a child in those situations where you have stressful environments that they're being reared in. And so, but like I said, I gave you pros and cons because they have way more information than we had at their disposal. But again, the murkiness of the information that's coming into them and how they are interpreting it.
I think also one of the other things too, Dr. Val, when I listen to that, and I think about your book, we also live in a very competitive society.
Okay.
This need to accomplish, even down to education, you talk about education, these standardized tests that become the reality of how smart they are and all of that. And getting into school, I think of my grandson now as an athlete, and you're looking at this transfer portal with athletes. Everything is so competitive that they're trying to keep up with that, and their brains are not matured enough to be able to keep up with all of that stuff, social media, competitiveness that we get to go to school to do things, and it's a lot. I would not want to be a teenager.
Yes,
Not growing up in these times.
No.
It's tough. I simply say the pressure is on, but the connection is gone. Like the connection is gone. So, I currently am a treatment director at some residential treatment centers for teenagers, the ones who are sort of wards of the state, right? They don't have parents, they're CPS, whatever. But the connection is gone, not just with those kids, but with the regular suburban kid too. Their parents don't know what's going on with them. The neighbors don't know what's going on with them. They can't talk to their friends. I had one girl that was like, well, I have to get straight A's. I said, well, girl, why? She said, because so-and-so is making straight A's, and I'm in their friend group, and so I have to get straight A's too. I was like, that's not why we get straight A's, girl, but go off, right? And so it's just like the pressure is on, but the connection is gone. So can you imagine just being so overstimulated and then having no one to really process that with? That's crazy. Like, that's a lot. So yeah, I agree with you guys. Being a teenager is actually way harder.
So Valerie, Valerie and I usually touch base, and I check in with her and the kids. And Valerie, does it make it easier for you, being a psychologist, to deal with the issues with your children?
Absolutely not. It has nothing to do. The answer is absolutely not.
Not
I mean,
Jesus, no.
no. I mean, actually, it's a lot harder, I would say, for me than probably most people, because I'm surrounded by mental illness and mental health and treating people all day long. My whole, because like I said, I have a child welfare agency, and then I have a mental health center all in one. So I'm surrounded by it all day long. Most of you guys get to go home and say, breathe, right? Actually, I sometimes just, my anxiety goes higher when I'm heading home, because that's a whole nother undertaking for me. There's no exhale until possibly when they go to sleep. But that's hours later, and then by that time I'm so riled up that I have to wind all the way down. So no, the only thing that it does help is that I'm not as triggered by their behaviors as others would be.
You're very patient.
I'm not as triggered, and because in my mind I'm not seeing the behavior, I understand trauma. I understand also brain development. I understand attachment disorder, all that, because the children have been through so many different other caregivers before they landed as me being their mom. And so I would say that I'm just more aware. That's what makes me patient. It's because I understand it. Because most parents would just look at the behavior and say, it's bad or good. Me, I look at it. I don't look at it black and white. I look at it right there in the gray. I'm like, yes, you are misbehaving, but also there's reason because you're misbehaving. It's not that I didn't birth you. I didn't start from day one with you. You didn't start from day one with me. And so we are constantly doing a dance of how to navigate this parent-child relationship.
How do you as therapists create healthy coping mechanisms in your high-stress situations?
You mean in everyday life or
In your own personal life?
Well,
How do you,
I don't. Well, somebody said. I think he said. Somebody said something about mental. Something. Well, I don't know. They said something, but I thought about it as like mental spa, right? You know, we think that spa. To take that rejuvenation, we have to go to a spa, get a massage. Actually, because I live in two worlds of stress, work and home, I have learned to put daily care into my life and make it intentional by saying, okay, right now, this is for me. And it may be something simple like, okay, right now, I'm gonna wash my behind, and this is for me. Like this is for me. I enjoy this. I need to do this for me. So taking moments throughout, it's not, you don't arrive to a place of serenity. It's a daily practice of taking care of yourself, whether it's, you're going to say, well, I'm gonna be careful of what I put in my body today because I know this is for me and I want me to be as healthy as can be, or I'm gonna incorporate exercising because I know that decreases stress levels or decreases, any rise in serotonin, which causes depression. And so I want to increase, adrenaline in order to just get that dopamine high, whatever. And so knowing that you're doing things for your overall health and well-being, but you don't do it at selective times of the month. You do it every single day, as often as possible.
and psychological and emotional boundaries. One of the hardest things I've ever had to teach young therapists. You appreciate this, Doc. I had to teach them to be all right with people who don't want to be all right. It is not your responsibility to change people. It is your responsibility to give people tools. And if you make it your responsibility to save the world, you're never going to come down when you get home. And because you're always going to be thinking about what, should have did this better, should have did so and so and so and so. No, I did everything I need to do in that hour in that room, and I'm going to leave that in that room. So psychological, emotional boundaries, like Doc says, every day doing something. I work out. I'm at the gym, not today, I'm at the gym at 8 o'clock at night. The hardest tool I had to learn with working out was not to bring the phone in the gym. Because if it rings, as a pastor, African-American mindset too, the way we are, I'm going to answer because the people need me. This is going to sound so horrible, y'all. But you'll be just as dead at 9:30 as you are at 8:05. It's not like if I answer the phone, you're going to be less dead. So for me to answer the phone, to pray for you, this moment right here is for me. Nobody has a right to this moment. This is my moment for me in the gym to work out. I'll call you at 9:30 when I leave the gym, see if I can do anything for you at that moment. But we have to have psychological, emotionally, mental barriers and practice. Doing for yourself ought not be a chore.
that's good.
And it doesn't need to be earned.
And it does not need to be earned.
That's
Yeah.
our biggest issue. We think we have to earn joy, earn relaxation, earn
And
peace.
earn the right to say no.
Yes.
No
we
is a
don't have
complete
to earn
sentence.
it.
Oh, it's a complete sentence. How do you create those healthy boundaries, right? So many of us deal with toxic relationships, toxic family, toxic friends, toxic relationships. How do you create healthy boundaries that are just about doing what you all said, taking care of you, when, especially as a person who gets pulled on from every direction? You're expected to have answers. You're expected to come through. I have one of my close friends, Erica, here, and Genesis knows. I call it my house, the foster care unit for people who need some, so all of our friends we have Sunday dinners every Sunday, and they're all filled with people who came here from, certain places, and they don't have family here. But, so how do you create boundaries with family and friends that you don't feel bad about?
Is the goal not to feel bad, or is the goal to set boundaries? But feeling ain't got nothing to do with nothing. You don't have to feel all right about it. You just have to be healthy and whole. I think that times we waiting that I'm gonna feel all right. I don't need to feel all right. And we we in ministry and do what we do, oftentimes have a need to be liked. I don't have a need to be liked anymore. I like me. I love me. And because I love, when I got ready, I'll share this, when I got ready to be hired for Windsor Village, and they hired me as the director of Christian education, I said to them, now you might want to think about whether you want to hire me. I take 40 days vacation day a year. They said, we're going to have to talk about that. I said, no, you missed it. I didn't say that was something I wanted to discuss with y'all. I will let you know when I'm not going to be here. So you think about whether you,
Whether you want to hire me.
some things are not, I don't have to earn it.
I
Non-negotiable.
don't have
have
to
to
earn.
earn
It's
it.
non-negotiable.
It's non-negotiable.
All right.
Yes.
It is not a permeable boundary.
Right. So
it is etched in stone.
the thing about that, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is so impactful, is that a boundary is not a limit for others to abide by. A boundary is your boundary. You have to make sure that it is enforced. It is your boundary and it is for you. And right, yeah, you don't have to have consensus. You set the boundary, but you do need to be consistent in making sure that people are aware when they've crossed it and how you're not going to accept it. Yeah, and exactly. And I think, you know, and I realized this in working with a client who was struggling, and, you know, we talked about this, and I said it offhand as if, you know, duh, that makes sense. Not specifically, but he went, what? What do you mean it's my boundary? And the light bulb went off, and seriously, and the other thing that I was gonna say is, you say toxic this, toxic that, toxic the other. Well, thank you, internet. Everybody bootlegs words in pop psychology, whether it's narcissism or, oh my gosh, you know,
That would live a long time.
oh my gosh.
Everybody's a narcissist.
Well,
And-
everybody's ex was a narcissist.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And everybody has suffered more emotional abuse than their best friend. Yeah. So the idea that becomes so weaponized, and what we really need to do is understand, and I love that you said about connection, because the connection is the piece that needs to be there, and the only way we can connect, and you use a lot of Brene Brown words. So I love Brene Brown.
Yes.
She's amazing. But that vulnerability is not weakness. It is openness to connection. Openness to connection. And the big step there is you own your part, they own their part. You speak your wants and needs, and you hold others accountable to speak their wants and needs, or understand that you have no idea what they want or need unless they say it. It's not about, they've been in this relationship with me for X amount of years. They know. No, they do not. Their life is focused around them, just like your life is focused around you. So stop being so selfish and speak your wants and needs. And they may not be met, but at least you've shared your perspective.
And I want to speak to you saying, because I know you, yeah, I don't want to feel bad about saying, no, I want to do Sunday dinner this weekend. I don't want to feel bad about that. But I want you to understand boundaries are actually not like a wall. It's not a wall, right? It's not saying you can't come in my house. It's saying come in my house, but respect my furniture, right? That's all you're saying. Like,
Oh, you know, I don't have any problem.
Yeah,
I was just speaking generally. I am a boundary setter.
Yeah,
Let's be clear.
And Renee says I draw boundaries so I can learn to love you
yeah,
and me
at the
equally.
same
Equally.
time. Come on, somebody. Yeah, so that's it. That's a great question, though, because a lot of people struggle. That definitely comes up in therapy very frequently.
Speaking of coping mechanisms, when I went to your program, you did, I've seen people do breathing exercises 100 times. Yours was kind of different. Can you talk us through the breathing exercise you did with the counting and holding your breath?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they've all heard of. This is box breathing. So we did a box breathing. So full disclosure, I'm also a hip hop artist. So my overfunctioning, and so And so for my book release, I did sort of a different like healing hip hop experience. And so, but before we started, at the beginning, we did box breathing. So, you know, it's kind of in a box. You hold, you inhale, hold, and then exhale, hold, right? And so we did that in a box. So it was the box breathing you're talking about. Yeah. You like that?
Extra holding of the breath.
It got you, yeah.
Most people just breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah, people don't know how to breathe. I love doing that exercise in
breathe
therapy
until I
because we go, see, I'm doing it. And I go, nah, it's supposed to be real slow. And you're supposed to really hold it. And then they go, oh, that's wrong.
says that we learn to breathe inappropriately after we leave the womb. Babies breathe appropriately. We learn how to breathe inappropriately after we leave the womb. We don't stop to breathe. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just talking. First of all, not even just learn to breathe, we don't stop to breathe. In the gym, where my girl at? In the gym, in personal training, we have people lift weights. If you don't breathe, if you're not breathing appropriately, you learn when you breathe, you can lift heavier than you thought you could. If you breathe, just breathe. I look at them in the gym. I say, you're going to pass out and roll off that bench. Breathe. And sometimes we don't stop to breathe. We don't stop to walk. We don't stop to look at stuff. We don't become mindful. We don't learn how to do nothing on purpose. We don't write in our calendar today, I'll do nothing. My children know you don't drop grandchildren at my house. I love them, but I don't like them like that. They cannot come to my house when they want to. I know they want to come. Tell them, call me, see what I'm doing. If my calendar fits for them. Grandparents say, oh, just let them come. Not to my house. I'm not that grandfather. Why? I'm in control of my time. I'm in control of my time. Boundaries. They're set. My kids understand that. Now, when I get them, we go all day. But that's when I call for them.
And if they showed up unannounced and said, I just need you to watch them, what would you say?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't answer the door. I have a ring bell.
No, and so y'all are laughing because some of you can't
answering the
imagine
door.
leaving them at the doorstep, but you would have to
I'll go
because
back to
that
New
is
York. You
the
didn't call me
enforcement
before
of the boundary. That's what we talking about.
No, I'm not going to open the door. I have a ringtone. You didn't call me, and you called with the children in hand? Oh, no. I'm not their parent. I raised mine. I'm not raising yours, too. No. Don't even ring the doorbell. I can see.
And actually, boundary, consistent boundaries are being consistent with your boundaries also helps strengthen relationships. We talk about toxicity. The toxicity in a relationship happens because boundaries continue to be broken between both people. It's not as you when you talk about relationship, whether it's parent-child, whether it's intimate, whether it's friendship. It takes two people to create the toxicity of the relationship, and all what you're seeing in the toxic realm of the relationship is broken boundaries everywhere. It's broken. It's I've allowed this to happen without communicating with you that I don't like it, but all of a sudden, years go by what you're doing it now, then you're saying, oh, I don't like it. But there was plenty of opportunity to create a strong connection, a respectful connection by upholding your boundaries. And so,
can I do this real quick? You cannot create a boundary without a consequence. You cannot don't create a boundary. If you tell me not to do so and so and I do it, what are you going to do? You have not created a consequence. So guess what I learned to do? To keep doing it over and over again, because you're not going to do anything anyway. I use that example. I laugh. My kids know I love them. If I tell you I'm going to watch the grandchildren until 3 p.m., it's not 3:05. It's not 3:06. It's not 3:10. So now when you come at 3:30, and then when you ask me again to watch them, and I tell you no, the consequence for your behavior, again, my time does not belong to you. My time belongs to me. That can almost say, but they're your grandchildren. Yeah, love it. Love them too. Don't bring them back here.
That is good. That is good.
I'm
So-
glad you're
3:30.
saying that. The reason I'm so glad you're saying that for people that are, let's just say, grandparents, boomers, whatever they are, or younger than boomers. But I think especially with women, women are taught, socialized from day one to take care of everyone else. So let's just give an illustration of you've got a 3-year-old twins. One's a boy and one's a girl. And so the parent will go up to the girl and say, go make sure that grandma has some iced tea. But they will not say to the little 3-year-old boy, maybe 5-year-old boy, whatever, go get grandma some tea. So we see a lot of that. But I also think, and I really like what y'all are saying about this boundary consequence. Some of us, does anybody have historical friends? You've been friends forever. You're not quite sure why, but you know, you're still, you know, you're just, they're there, and you know, you get together for the holiday, or you recognize each other's birthday. Well, sometimes I know I've had one that's just so rude on a regular basis, and will talk to you like you are just below dirt level. I finally got tired of it. I was I was being too understanding because, you know, she had so many problems. And so what I did one day, I said, you're never going to talk to me like that again. She was not even aware that she was talking to me that way. Never talk to me that way again. And I'm hanging up now. Boing. And that may sound, I think, I'm going to make a generalization that men can get by with that easier sometimes because women are so socialized to sacrifice everything. But I love this idea. And by the way, I have the same thing. When the doorbell rings at my house, I just yell out from where I am. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk. If somebody's out there, I don't want to talk to them. And I am thought of sometimes at home and in my family as being a little rude. I don't care.
Not you.
I don't care. I really agree with you. I don't really care. I don't care anymore. Yeah.
Not at this age.
And that sounds funny. At this age, I don't care anymore.
You learn.
But
as
you got to learn.
You learn how to protect your peace.
Yeah.
You learn, and that a peaceful you is a better you for everyone. So if you continuously let people overstep their boundaries, and then it disrupts your spirit or it disrupts your peace, then that's what results in this exchange that is not healthy. And so, but it all starts again with the boundaries
And the Bible says, doesn't say keep peace, it says make peace.
Yeah.
Which means that you're going to have to do some things to create a space for your own peace.
Glad we stay right there. So, Dag, Richie came in, so I can't really talk about him the way I want to. In therapy, my key word for myself was self-abandonment, right? And not wanting to self-abandon my own needs and desires for my husband's, or anyone for that matter. I want to go around the horn here on what self-abandonment and self-awareness. What's your perspectives on that? Genevieve.
Self-awareness is so important. And in fact, I think the ring of self-abandonment can cause greater problems internally for someone. But self-awareness is I am aware that I do not want to talk to anybody when the ring bell comes on. And I will not abandon my post. My post is that I'm sitting watching something that I want to watch, not work stuff, on my computer. So I really like self-awareness better, but we do get into relationships, particularly in marriages, I think, where we abandon our awareness. And then we become not aware.
Self-awareness is so important. So when I'm self-aware, I understand what I need for my peace and for the space that I live in. That does not have to be earned. So I implement now because I'm aware of the cost of me not doing it.
That's good.
There's a cost for me not doing it. And so I'm aware of the costs for me not doing it. So I become self-aware of what I need for me in this moment. Somebody said to me, how do you break off friendships? I don't break off friendships. I go back to where we were before. I create new boundaries. Either you can live with them or you can't. And so being aware of what I need in the space that I need, and being aware that I've grown some too, so what I may have needed yesterday, I need differently today. And being willing to do that as I become more aware, as I evolve and move and grow. That whole the idea of self-abandonment, self-awareness is most important to me. How aware are you of you and what your needs are and what you need in your life for you to function appropriately? Like for me, I need church. Oh, I gotta go to church. It helps everybody around me during the week.
But you're aware of that.
I'm very aware of that. You know, and
Go back to the word.
my mind go back to the word. Yeah, so all of those kinds of things. Just being aware. Who are you in the skin that you're in, and what does it take for you to have the peace that you require for you to be productive in life and walk in your purpose?
Are you happy with the skin that you're
Yeah.
in?
I think self-awareness is underutilized by all of us. We're distracted. We got many stimuli coming at us at one time, and life is a fast-moving train. We have, in order to strengthen our self-awareness, it's the same thing with strengthening your body or strengthening your mind. You have to practice. You have to be intentional with it. You have to take the time to bring yourself to a quiet place and ask yourself questions. Some of the questions that we're listening to today, you know, what are my boundaries? What do I need to keep me at peace and bring happiness to myself? What areas of my life are dysfunctional? What areas of my life are functional? What are some of the things that then long term, like what are some things I need to change, short term, what some things I need to change long term to get to my ideal self? And so you can be aware how you're thinking, feeling, whatnot, but where are you heading with that? How do you envision your ideal self? So what's going to be obtainable, like I said, in the short term, long term, whatever. But you have to have a goal that you're heading for. But the only way you can do any of this is you have to practice self-awareness. You have to do some mental check-ins. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? Where am I? What's going on? What's happening to me? You have to, and again, this is that same thing where we talk about self-care. Self-awareness is a daily exercise. It's a day, multiple times throughout the day of an exercise. But we have to, we use the word, but we need to apply that word to our everyday, as many moments as possible, life.
Yeah, most of what you guys say, I echo. I'll just add that, when I typically in my first session with clients, I will say, hey, let's just do a quick progress report for you. It just shows how not aware people are. I will tell them to give themselves a grade in mental, physical, and spiritual health. Mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Like literally like a progress report. Like, oh, A, B, then they'll be like F, C, D, and I'll be like, so you surprised you depressed? Interesting. Look at your report card, bro. Like, you out of there. Yeah, and so it becomes very clear to me they're not aware, right? But kind of what you said, it's because they're so distracted. So another one of my favorite quotes is you can't save someone from drowning if you're sinking. And a lot of times we're like, hey, let me go get this person, but girl, you drowning. You have to get to shore first before you can help anyone else. And so, I think we need to stop being so distracted and get better self-awareness by looking at where we're not aligned, because that mental, physical, spiritual, emotional shows you alignment. So I would encourage you to do that this evening. Like journaling is such a great thing, but just to sit down and be like, what grade would I give myself today? A B-, C+? How am I taking care of myself? Mentally, physically. Yourself is your responsibility. How am I taking care of those things? And give yourself an honest grade, and then you'll see from there where you are.
And all of that can be found in A Month of Me.
1,000%. Because again, listen, I wrote the book. That's how I became self-aware. Like, what is going on? This is not normal. Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, so awareness, not only of, I mean, if we go back to awareness of self, but also it's so related to the context of those boundaries. Because I think self-abandonment is when you don't have enough awareness to maintain boundaries. And so where that lands for me is when you have, you know, I think of teachers and burnout. And I think of the years and years and years I spent teaching. And every time I got to the point where I was overwhelmed because my kids weren't behaving, I could trace it back to a lack of consistency in what I was doing. When I said, that's it, I'm calling your mom, and I didn't call the mom, then I paid for it. It might not have been the next day, it might have been the next week, but I needed to follow through. I do what I say what I mean, and I follow through. And so that's me enabling behavior. So that awareness of not enforcing a boundary with a consequence, that is enabling. And so that's me owning my part, that I got here because I was conflict avoidant and I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Like, and I say supposed to do, we shouldn't should ourselves, right? But that's the thing. I also love what you're saying about practice. You know, in DBT, when we talk about mindfulness, it very specifically, it is something that we practice, and because we have to keep doing it, not because if we practice enough, someday we'll be perfect at it. You know, I think it's Yo-Yo Ma that would say, I don't practice until I get it right. I practice until I can't get it wrong. And so the idea is that you keep up that practice to maintain a habit, right? And so the habit is that awareness of what I need throughout the day to make me able to show up for others the way I want to, or for myself the way I want to.
I just want to say too, with our interactions with others, we teach, train, or guide people on how to treat us.
Yeah.
So, and when I thought about your listening to your example with the children, you trained them to assume, or train them to expect you not to do anything. So that means your boundary went up, but then it was blown down real quick. And so when you don't follow through with your own boundary, you're teaching someone that's not really your boundary.
Right.
Whereas if
Teaching
you,
them I lie.
yeah, huh?
I teach them I lie.
I lie, yeah, that's not really a boundary, right? So if you allow someone to do something or that's against something that you've taken time to have self-awareness, knowing that's not something that you that makes you feel peaceful or good, but then you keep allowing it to do this, you're teaching, you're training, you're conditioning others to say, that's not really their boundary. That's not really something that they really are serious about. So even though, in your mind's like, oh, but they should know. No.
I love that you said that, because teach others how to treat us is exactly what my therapist said to me when I kept, we teach others how to treat us, is when I was enabling a behavior and had no awareness. So I had built this huge resentment.
That's what happens.
Right. And
Allow people to keep doing this.
Right.
You start to resent them.
right. And so you resent people and they don't even know what's going on. Like you're taking the poison and expecting someone else to die. And that's that resentment. And the actual circumstance was for me, when I learned this in therapy, and it's the story I use to teach it now, is I said, hey, we don't have this youth choir. I want to do this youth choir. Well, my daughter was of age to be in a youth choir, and there wasn't one, so I was willing to do it. But this church and that church and the other church nearby pay their youth choir director. Don't always pay their children's choir directors. Sometimes it's a volunteer thing, but I do this for a living. If I'm going to do this, you got to pay me. And they said, you know what? It's not in the budget this year. Why don't you get it going, and we'll pay you next year. And I said, okay, that's a great idea. I got you. And then the next year I said, okay, it's been a year. I know it's got to be in the budget now because you said we were going to do this. You got to pay me. And they didn't pay me. So by the time I got to 8 years, I mean, I gave up after 3 even asking, I'm sure. But after 8 years, I had built up 8 years of resentment. And I'm saying this to my therapist, and probably like the 4th or 5th time he heard it in, over the first 6 months. He's like, Ron, we need to talk about this. And he's like, we teach others how to treat us. Did you really think that they were going to start paying you after the 3rd year? And I was like, no, I guess not. Okay, so why are you still mad at them? And it just, I was like, you know what I mean? But it finally landed, and I was like, woo, okay, that's a lesson.
I want to go back to the idea of self-awareness real quick. I think one of the toughest exercises I've given clients, I normally do it with older clients because I'm a narrative therapist and I believe in stories, is write me a letter, self-awareness, that describes who you are without telling me what you do. Do not tell me what you do, because we're going to get into, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher. Tell me who you are without telling me what you do. And it's going to take a couple of sessions before they come back with that lesson, because we are so used to only describing ourselves by what we do that we don't know how to talk about ourselves outside the pastor, outside the therapist, outside the psychologist, outside the... Who are you? I didn't ask you what you do. You're going to rattle off to me all day everything you do? Now tell me who you are. In other words, what is it in you that makes you do all that you do? Who are you? Who is the essence of who you are without telling me all that you do?
Does anyone in the audience have a question around anything that we've discussed so far? Anastasia?
So, hi, this was fantastic. Thank you for having this. I'm been really enjoying this. When you were talking about the establishment of boundaries and how toxicity builds from a bunch of broken boundaries and all of that, what about if you were in a scenario, talking about myself, when it never felt like you were allowed to establish boundaries? From my youth on, very oftentimes if I felt a certain type of way about something or expressed my feelings in a certain way, it'd be very much like, I'm the adult, you listen to me, you have no say, sort of energy, sort of shindig. And growing up, I never learned how to establish boundaries because I didn't feel like they were allowed to me. So now that I'm older, and your girl is in therapy now, I'm one of those who built my coping strategies on my own, and it came to the point where I could not, and I needed therapy. So after 30 years of that, and getting and talking to a therapist, and learning, okay, yes, I can establish boundaries. I can talk about these things that negatively impacted me. But since it's been going on so long, it may feel like it's coming out all of a sudden to this person I'm talking to. And sometimes it's difficult because then it'll be like, well, you never told me. You never said this. I never felt safe. I never felt like I could. So how is that something that I can sort of work on? I'm getting a little better. It's that practice. I do a little role play in the mirror sometimes and be like, if this happens, this is what I'll say in the moment, hopefully. But I guess back to the original question, if you never felt like you could develop boundaries and you start developing them later on, how do you go about dealing with that?
Keep practicing. You said it. You answered it. You're the expert. It works for you standing in front of the mirror saying, now next time this happens, I'm going to say so. And keep practicing. Here's one thing I will warn you, don't let others put you in guilt and shame because you did not do it before. That's not your problem. I learned how to do it now.
And that's a boundary.
And there it is. Say that again, Don.
That's a boundary.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now.
I'm doing it now. Keep practicing. Because it's not gonna feel comfortable at first. It's like some people have a goal of not being afraid. The goal is not to be afraid. The goal is to keep moving. Even if I am afraid, the goal is to keep setting it, even though it feels uncomfortable. After a while, we'll go back to working out again. It didn't feel good laying on that bench, pushing that metal and that ball. I'm like, what in the world? What was I thinking about coming to this place and paying these people to do this to me? But after a while, guess what? If I don't go, I don't feel right. I gotta go. Even if I go tonight at 9 o'clock, if I ain't there but 30 minutes, I gotta go. I gotta do something. Why? Because now I've created this normal for me. Watch this. And I've noticed the benefits of creating this normal. There are benefits in it. After you do it, you know, after a while, you're going to have to balance out. It's like learning to say no. People call on the phone rings, you say no. You say, well, wait a minute, the people didn't ask nothing yet. Because you're feeling so good now that you have the power to say no and to set boundaries. Keep practicing.
And what I was thinking while Dr. Troy was talking was that you have to understand that it's all right at any point in your life to recreate yourself.
That's right.
You have permission to recreate yourself as many times as you want to. And again, these are, as you recreate yourself, you're not stuck into who you were. Because who you were is who you were. You're somebody now, and then you're going to be somebody else in the, who you're going to become. And so it's fine to recreate yourself for yourself, to better yourself. And so, and establishing boundaries today that maybe you've never done. And let's just say, as you establish these boundaries with folk in your life, they're not respecting it, then bye-bye.
That's cool.
And that's fine. It's bye-bye. Because that's a boundary too. The boundary is that I am presenting to you who I am, what I am and who I'm going to become, or what I'm becoming. And so this is my journey. This is what I'm willing to do. This what used to be is not no more. Period. And if you can't respect that, bye-bye.
And that's exactly what Dr. Troy said when someone asked him, how do you end friendships? Oh, I don't do that. He doesn't end friendships. He may change the boundary, and they may be willing to abide by it or not, and that's their choice if they walk away. And
Not my monkey, not my son.
Yeah.
right, and so that's the deal. That's what that is saying, no, yeah, I may not have said it before, but I'm saying it now.
And I don't.
Easier said than done, to be honest, but it takes practice.
Here's what I know about that, and I'm so glad y'all all brought that up, because about 20 years ago, as we like to say in this business, there was a big movement, maybe it was a little longer,
Sicily,
somewhere around there.
1985.
Somewhere around there, you had to end things properly. You had to have closure. And what I've learned is that over time, you don't have to have closure. In fact, maybe, but not only might you not have to have closure, I love this renegotiation. And sometimes the other person or people or whomever may not get the fact that you're renegotiating, and that might be the time to remove yourself. Here's what most people have learned that I've watched do this. I've certainly seen it for me. When you walk away, when you walk away from this group or this person or people, and I know some relationships have some other constraints on them, but you can worry about how to negotiate that. But you walk away, and I like to think about it as going into, in warfare, they call it no man's land. You don't know what's going to happen. You're walking away from the dumpster. You don't know what you're walking toward, but you're walking away from the dumpster, and you start feeling better. You may not know where you're going, but eventually something comes, and it's almost always better.
And also, I would ask the question as well, ask the question to you, what's the consequence for not doing things the way people want you to do them as an adult? What is the consequence for me not doing it the way you want me to do it? How does it impact me?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it just, for me, it depends, I guess, on the relationship that I have. Currently, it's with a person who is a family member that I can't rightly just avoid because I go home and see them every day.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure what the consequence would be in that scenario.
I said to a client one time, client said to me, you know, my family is crazy. Saucy, sound like it. He said, so what I do is I don't even go to the family reunion anymore because they always fighting and acting crazy. I said, you know when real freedom comes? They said, when is that? I said, when you go to the family reunion and watch them roll on the ground and shoot at each other and say, now where the barbecue at? Because I know Uncle Brown can barbecue some good ribs. I'm still going to go understanding my boundary and my relationship with these people over here, family and I, is a bit different right now. I came here for the food, not for the fellowship.
I was just kind of, I feel like when you are, I guess, new to setting boundaries, it's like having one of those really hard conversations with your friend, with your husband, with, you know, whoever. And those are too hard. And that's like, it's like a barrier to go, which is interesting because I started with a new therapist a couple months ago, and I'd been hedging, and I'm like, okay, this makes me really uncomfortable, and I hate talking a bit about it, but I'm thinking if I can talk to you about it, maybe then I can talk to my husband about it. So kind of your idea of practicing with yourself in front of the mirror, I found that was a lot easier to practice with my therapist. And I got all the I hate talking about this, it's so uncomfortable, it's about sex and all that, you know. It's just not how I grew up, talking about all that stuff. Right. And then I could say, hey, this still is uncomfortable, but so I was talking about my therapist, and I need to talk about it with you now. And it was a lot easier. So that was a helpful thing because it's, been something that I wanted to talk about for a long time, and it just was too hard.
Yeah, yay. That's like, we all want to hear that. Yes, thank you. It makes us all feel like we sometimes do it right. That said, the hard spot is to do that thing, even though you practice it. I have a client I'm still seeing. I've been seeing him for a long time. He's taking breaks. He always ends up coming back, and he's awesome. But he had a specific, probably first day he came in, he wanted to talk to his husband about a specific thing, and he desperately wanted to talk about it. We practiced it, we worked on it, but he'd come back the next session and say, I didn't talk about it with him. Finally, he came back and he said, we talked about it. I said, that's great. How did you start it? Oh, I didn't. He brought it up. And what he brought up, which was 4 months after we said it has to be talked about, was the exact same thing. He wanted this little tweak in what they had previously agreed on to go back to the way it had been beforehand, and that's what he was going to ask him. They wanted the same thing, and every day of those 4 months that he went home and didn't talk about it, his husband wanted the same thing too. They both lived 4 months in a situation that they were both uncomfortable with because neither one of them would talk about it. And he had me to help him practice it, work on it, try to get ready for it. Still didn't do it. I mean, granted, it all turned out they got what they wanted, but they could have done it 4 or 5 months sooner. And it created more stress in the relationship. So, and it's not that I had it right or he had it right. He knew he needed to talk about it. I helped him practice it. Just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, and I think with hard conversation situations, I go back to the technique of exposure therapy, where you take it in small parts. So, maybe the goal is to have the conversation, right? But there's small parts that can lead you to that, and to where you feel like you're making progress. Maybe the first step is just to say it out loud first. Second step may be to write it down. Third step may be to practice it in a mirror. Fourth step, so making a timeline of small steps instead of, because sometimes just thinking about it from here to the leap, it's just too much for your brain. And like I said, there's a technique called exposure therapy where we do really small steps to lead us to the bigger one.
And I just want to say, and that's why therapy is so cool, right? Because we started talking about boundaries, but what we really learned is communication skills is what's needed, and specifically assertive communication skills, which I love teaching people. And I will say practice that regularly. When you go to Starbucks and somebody skips you in line, are you the person that goes, oh man, I guess I got skipped? Or are you the person like, hey, actually, it's my turn? Or are you the one who throws a fit? And so you need to know what type of person you are, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So you sort of have to train your brain also to just learn to communicate assertively. So if I was in sessions with you, I would also be like, hey, did you tell them that your meal was not prepared correctly? Okay, you should probably practice doing that, because the more you empower yourself, because you talked about your history not having a voice, the more you practice just having a voice.
The little things.
Yeah. Tell people something, give them the feedback in the situation that seemed less threatening to you, and then it becomes easier and easier. Yeah.
It seems stressful.
Yeah.
The big picture, when I was doing my dissertation, I had 3 dissertations from 3 cousins who have PhDs in front of me. I threw all that away. All I realized I was doing was counting paper. And I said, oh, Lord, there's 120 pages. This one 130. This one 510. This got to go. This is causing me so much stress. I'm not even thinking about the subject. I'm thinking about the pages I got to write.
Right.
And so then my chair says to me, take all them timelines out. Small spaces. Small spaces. Then when you look out, when you go back and you read your dissertation, you say, man, that's a good dissertation. You want this. Wait a minute. I put the work in.
Yeah.
And did it. Small spaces. Like Doc said, might be writing, might be practicing the girl, might be small spaces.
But I like her suggestion with, you may not have the strength to address your family directly or your partner directly, but you can start building your strength in other relationships or other interactions, other situational interactions where you can feel empowered, and build on that, and then be able, those are small steps, then continue on. But it may something that's less threatening. Just say, excuse me, you skipped me, or I'm in line. That then you stand in the place you were entitled to stand, and you feel accomplished. And so just keep building yourself towards that ideal self, that person that holds strong boundaries, that respects themselves, that knows that you're worth someone treating you right.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I want to touch on one last topic before we start talking about resources. Can we talk about grief for a second? We always taught that there's no timing on grief. There's no proper way to grieve. Can we talk about how to properly grieve, or is there a proper way to grieve?
Yeah.
What are some healthy tips for grieving?
Yeah, the proper way to grieve. You are where you are. you are where you are. We think that grief ends. It doesn't end. It transforms. It changes to something different. And I tell therapists all the time, the goal is not to get the person to stop grieving. The goal is to get them to grieve differently, to help them, I said this earlier, walk through the process with them. People in grief will always say, am I wrong for feeling? I say, no. They say, wait, I didn't tell you how I feel. I say, it doesn't matter. You have a right to feel however you feel. So let's talk about what you're feeling, where you are in this process. You're angry? I'm very mad. You know, it's all right to be mad. I validate the emotion, the feeling. There's no time limit on that, because time limit suggests to me that it ends somewhere. My mother died 10 years ago. I still grieve when I think about her. I grieve differently. So I look for things at this stage of my grief to honor her memory. That's where I'm walking the person to honor the memory of the thing that they're grieving. You walk slowly through the process. You allow the persons to feel, to lay their weight into what they're feeling, not to pull away from it. Lay your weight in it to feel what you're feeling. I gave the example before. I said to someone, I've said it several times, I don't know, I'm just feeling so horrible. My mother died. I said, well, how long you had your mama? What you mean? I said, how long did you have your mother? Well, I'm 48. I had her 48 years. I said, she died last week. You're supposed to be all right this week with somebody you had 48 years? Where they do that at? I'm worried if you're not having problems, because you're about to implode. And so you walk them through that process, and little by little by little, you help them to see the strides they've made. Look at you. Last week, I don't care if it's me something crazy. Last week you cried for the whole session. You only cried 50 minutes. Look at you. Boy, you moving on. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you. I don't know what to do. But it's still 50 minutes. I said, yeah, it was 60 last time. You're in front of 8 ball. Watch this. Because what I'm doing is I'm walking them through the process. Grief is a process you walk people through and with, and validate their feelings and emotions at every level of that space. Moving them away from it too quickly, it's going to come back, and it's going to come back with a vengeance. And it's going to come back in a crazy place. At work, at the Starbucks, now the person skip you in line, you don't say, excuse me, you skip me, you beat them up, snatch them outside the door, but because you're going to take out everything on that person that you have, yes.
I just want to ask, you know, I love that, and I think it's easier for me to do with other people, but what about the people who feel like they shut it down and they haven't done it?
That's what I'm going through now. That's why I asked. So what if you're not crying and overly emotional?
And then I'm going to argue with you. You're still doing it. You've defined it differently, and you have not laid into it. And so what you see people grieving with crying and doing so and so and so, some people don't grieve like that. I think about when my mother passed, I took care of her. When she passed, I did her preached the service and everything. I didn't cry at all. I had gone through the process where I bathed her, took care of her, did all of those kinds of things. You haven't passed by. It's still in you. Freud says we have working energy inside of us, whether we realize it's working or not. You got to look in and see where are you in the process. Your whole idea of not dealing with it may be because you're in a place of denial.
Right.
Which is part
That's
of
what
the
he's saying, which is a part of the grieving process.
So
Absolutely.
you are doing it. Just because it doesn't look like this image sometimes we have in our minds of what we've seen other people do, doesn't mean you're not going through it. You're aware of it. You're aware of that it's there.
And what about the person who doesn't have Dr. Troy validating their feelings so they know that they are in it? You know, what?
community for me? What are the people around you? How are they in it with you? You got to have somebody in it with you. You got to have people around you that are saying something to you, recognizing something. Even they ask you questions where it's going to get annoying sometimes. How you feeling? Are you okay? What's going? Because they're noticing it. You're not going to do it by yourself. You're not going to do it by yourself.
Can I add that it's gonna come, whether you like it or not? It's gonna come. So for me, I was grieving back to back as a child, 11 and 12. Back then, when people died, I don't know about other people's family, but nobody didn't talk to the kids about it. It's like they died, we dressing for the funeral, you going on this day, and that is it. There was no processing. So back to back within a year, my grandmother died and my uncle died, and I had to watch my uncle die, and then they told me at the last minute that he was gonna die, so they was just like, just show up to the hospital and he's there to say goodbye. I didn't know he was dying. So like that kind of trauma, right? And so I was 11 or 12, I went all the way to college as a very angry teenager. I mean, I'm in college getting into fights in my sorority. What you say to my sorority? I realized that my anger was like really grief, right? And so, yeah, I didn't initially cry. I didn't shut down. I didn't do all of that. I was mad. Like, how do you take these people out of all the people you're going to take? But one day, it just hit me. I'm telling you, no specific reason other than I'm fighting and getting into fights so bad that my sorority sisters go, we about to go to this party. Can you promise that you're not going to get into a fight with nobody? Can we just not tonight? But that comment hit me like, that is not in the image of my grandmother. My grandmother was a social activist, community member, positive, joy, strength, courage. And I was like, oh my God, like I don't want to be that person. I want to be what my grandmother was. So the honoring their legacy. So I found that my grief, the way I'm grieving is honoring her legacy, which is why I'm on the stage today.
I love everything that's been said, and I certainly identify a lot, Pastor, too, with what you said. Sometimes what I will tell clients, because I think, and it may or may not work for all, but when people will say, when will this be over? I like to say, it will never be over. But it's taking up your entire being right now. And think about that over time, in your brain or in your heart, wherever, what's taking over your entirety of yourself will still be there, but it's going to be this little and this little, but it's still going to be there. And I think this psychic energy that you're talking about might be going on with you. I don't know, but I do agree that it's there. And I think the other aspect of it, I know after returning 1 week after my mother's death, who I also took care of, people were coming up and saying, why are you here? Why are you here? I like to be busy. And that helped me. But what I also learned is that it might have been better for me to really be mindful, to really think, to really write. Yeah, I honor her legacy now by doing certain things, but the point is, it might have been good. And we're all, everybody in this room, we're a busy city. We got stuff going on all the time. We're tending to this, tending to that. We don't have time to really make room for grief in the way that we might say, oh, good, you're processing your grief. But grief is individual, and grief is there.
We're going to close out with this. This was free. How can people who can't afford this get this?
You have a referral list right there.
Yeah. Can people
Well, yeah, they could, yeah. I mean, we have the referral, but I do want to say something to really encourage folks, or you also be the foot soldiers that encourage folks to seek the help that they need. Be self-aware about it, be open about it, and be comfortable with it. Because at the end of the day, hurting people hurt people. And so if you're walking around bruised, abused, and beaten, how are you going to employ kindness to others, or give back to the world with your gifts and talents, or be the thing that the Lord has called you to be in the best vessel you can possibly deliver that in. So hurting people hurt people. So if you're walking around hurting, take the time to heal. We all have something we need to heal from, but you have to first acknowledge it with self-awareness and then take the steps towards that. And it's a daily thing. Whether you're grieving or you are trying to heal from childhood traumas or you're trying to heal from past relationships, whatever it is, be truthful about where you are in that process. And then from that point, if you need more tools in your toolbox to be able to deal and cope, it is okay. Therapy, interventions, whether you go through talk therapy, skills training, or techniques, meditation, whatever. Do whatever it takes to be your ideal self. And build upon that and know it's okay not to be okay.
I wrote a book of quotes. I don't have them with me, but I wrote a book of quotes. And one of the first quotes I ever gotten, I said to someone, the reason why things around you are in shambles is because broken people break things because they only know how to manage pieces.
Very good.
And if you stay broken, you will shatter relationships, shatter things around you because you're not used to wholeness. You're used to managing pieces. And so you'll start breaking things. So it's incumbent on you to get to a place where you become all, since we're in this setting, that God has created you to be. There are systems and incidences and things that have come along that have left you shattered in some places, but also you can use those same things for strength. Fear can either make you run from a bullet or freeze in your tracks. And so this idea of being able to move to wholeness, because you're not here just for you. You're here for the community that's around you and the people that you see every day to build upon, to help and to strengthen as well.
Thank you so much. This has been passed out now, and these are resources. Most of them are fairly close to this church, not too far from this church, but certainly it's not. Houston and beyond has many possible services, but there's some that you can get therapy for a cost, and there's some that you can get low cost or even some free types of therapy. Let me warn you, for things that are lower cost or no cost, there might be a waiting line, okay? But that's all right, because you're going to put your name on that list, and you're going to stay there till they call you, okay? And keep working on that. Now, if you're a person that has some insurance or resources, then you might be able to get in a little quicker. But okay, that's kind of how the world works, and I wish that it didn't always work that way, but it does oftentimes. But you do not get discouraged. You say, my name's on that list, and I'm going to wait till I am called. And I'm going to call them back to make sure have anybody canceled. Thank you all for being here.
There's a couple of other tips. Like if you do have insurance, you might have something called EAP. That's basically your job giving you free sessions. They don't tell you that. You need to ask. They're not going to tell you. But if you say, hey, do we have EAP? They'll be like, yeah. You might call and they'll give you 12 free sessions, right? And so understand what you have, right? And then also I hope it's on there, I think, the Loveland Foundation. Now this one is specifically for women of color, but what I love about it is you can actually go to any therapist you want and they give you vouchers and they reimburse the therapist or they reimburse you. And then I'll just say when you're